Did you know that Sally K Norton, the author of Toxic Superfoods, once followed a vegetarian diet for 9 years, only to see her health deteriorate? If that feels like it goes against all logic, you're not alone. Welcome back, insiders. 2 weeks ago, I shared a video about reversing my carpal tunnel through diet alone. Today, I bring you this follow-up video for 2 compelling reasons. Firstly, I finished Sally K Norton's remarkable book on toxic superfoods, which unveiled the hidden truth behind popular health foods causing inflammation due to toxins. Your comments on my last video have inspired me to share my notes into the eye-opening revelations revealed in Sally's book. And secondly, I'm back in Berlin for 2 weeks now, which unfortunately means no longer surfing every day, but it's allowed me to isolate the variables of healing. I'll start off there because it's now been 4 weeks since I discovered Sally K Norton and I feel terrific.
I mean, it's terrific, right? So, I'm in heaven.
This might not sound groundbreaking as I look fit to most people. I work out probably around 5 times per week. I get outdoors a lot, and for most of my life, I've eaten very, very healthy. I'm 30 now, and for the last 3 to 4 years, again, the healthier I've eaten, the worse I've felt. This is taking into account trying all popular healthy things like cutting out alcohol, sugar, and carbs. Basically going full keto. I even stopped streaming my trading a year ago, and for a whole month, I stopped coffee. All things were popular ideas, eat healthier and reduce stress, but ultimately they did not relieve my symptoms, which were hypertension, bouts of facial palsy, constant heart palpitations, chest pains, eye pressure, tinnitus, intense carpal tunnel, and anxiety. I legit felt like I was falling apart. Then within 1 week of doing what Sally K Norton recommended, those symptoms were reduced by maybe 80%. Now on week 4, I'm probably about 95% of all those symptoms being just a faint memory. To me, it's life-changing. I can't tell you how calm I mentally feel and how I've even been able to increase my workouts by roughly 30% with insane ease. I can always make another video about my current diet. If you're interested, comment below, but ultimately I'm eating 80% animal-based and 20% other. The other just isn't allowed to be high oxalate foods. I think for me, the hardest part of the last 4 weeks have been trying to unlearn the truths I believe to be 100% certain, like eat your veggies and red meat is bad. I've probably consumed over 40 hours of content now in this topic in that short period of time, in addition to Sally's book, and that rabbit hole I've been going down is far from over. Let me share some of the notes I've taken from Sally's book, Toxic Superfoods. Side note, I originally wasn't taking notes until you guys made it clear in the comments of my last video that this is a topic you wanted more of, so please bear with me for the lack of notes in the first few chapters. Here we go. Starting with chapter 4, Toxic Delusions and Troubling Trends. Number 1, studies dating back to 1937 and 1939 show that spinach was a killer. In one experiment that fed rats spinach, 5 out of the 12 lab rats died, and the rest became super frail and unfertile. Feeding spinach to babies and kids was a massive no-go back then. Somehow, we've totally forgotten that. 2, the Mediterranean diet was invented by the olive industry and portrayed as a plant-heavy with little saturated fat / red meat to sell more olive oils, which was, and still is, far from the truth. 3, many studies supporting fiber and veggies have been proven invalid, yet the government still base their guidelines off of them. The food pyramid that we know today is completely corporate sponsored. 4, we've known about oxalates well since the 1900s and even documented them as far back as the Middle Ages, but somehow we forgot all the lessons, which maybe more than anything have been swept under the rug. A good thing to remember is there are much bigger profit margins in veggie-based foods than in meat-based foods. Follow the money, maybe. Chapter 5, the many faces of a poison. 1, the sorrel plant, which looks like a longer spinach, is super poisonous. It blows my mind how many well-documented deaths at the hospital have happened due to malpractice, such as giving someone who's frail a spinach or sorrel-based soup and it kills them. The medical industry seems to be at large ignorant about these plant toxins. 2, I forgot which chapter this was from, but banana trees are so poisonous that indigenous tribes rub their arrows into the bark to add a paralysis effect to their shots. Chapter 7, a confusing multitude of symptoms and no good tests. Note number 1, Hannah's story from being a vegan of almost 20 years to totally falling apart. There were many more vegans or vegetarians specifically that were really struggling. Doctors, again, don't often ask questions about your diet, which is critical. They have a short 7-minute window on average per patient. Note number 2, during the 20th century, a big shift happened in the medical industry away from preventative care, think what can keep you out of the hospital, and towards measurable care, think the results of a drug or from a certain procedure. Note number 3, did you know Sally alone was a vegetarian for 9 years and her health deteriorated? For years, her breakfast was a green smoothie made with spinach and kale plus Brussels sprouts. There's a striking parallel to Chris Hemsworth's own vegetarian mishap, who I also got to learn about in this book. He was hospitalized after too many green spinach smoothies. Wow. 4, medical testing for plant poisoning such as oxalates is really hard to do because your body stores and excretes oxalates at very random times and outlets which show as different symptoms. For example, you might be having oxalate poisoning but not be urinating it out due to the overloaded kidneys, or even if your kidneys are fine, they might only do it during certain daytimes or cycles. Chapter 8, how your diet aggravates oxalate overload. Sally mentions to slowly reduce your oxalate intake rather than going from a high oxalate to a zero oxalate diet, due to higher levels of oxalate dumping and symptoms associated with that. Side note, this might be why I've heard many times now watching carnivore videos and podcasts that sometimes they all experience some major oxalate dumping symptoms at first, rashes and so on. Joe Rogan even mentioned this when he went full carnivore. It took about 2 weeks until those things went away. Before we delve further into these incredible insights, I want to take a moment to share how I experienced Sally K Norton's book, Toxic Superfoods. Personally, I find that the audio version of books have become my go-to consumption during household chores, workouts, cooking, and more. It's an absolute game changer. Not only is it as easy to digest as a low oxalate meal, but it also allows me to have a library of books with all my notes wherever I go. No longer do I consider long lines or commutes a waste of time. They've become opportunities to enrich my mind. That's why I've organized a list of all my favorite reads that include an audio version on my Amazon bookstore. If you're curious, I've linked it in the video description below. Back to my notes. Chapter 10, Symptoms and Syndromes. Number 1, mice exposed to oxalates have developed hypertension. This is what I was diagnosed with during my 3 weeks in Montenegro. Side note, makes me think of the old complaint of, why is all the food that tastes good bad for me? Actually, the opposite seems to be true. Kids knew that they didn't want to eat those Brussels sprouts, and it's because they're deadly. Chapter 13, a phase transition. Number 1, this chapter just got me thinking, what's worth it for you, the food you think you love, or a life free of the symptoms that come from food poisoning? We can all be stubborn when changing our diets, even from the ones we originally didn't like, but got used to because we thought they were healthy. For example, it's a weird feeling not eating a big salad, and it's an even weirder feeling knowing it's good for me not to eat that salad. I've only started eating salads in the first place because I thought they were healthy. I recently heard Lily Kane, a popular animal-based YouTuber, say, nothing tastes better than healthy feels, and I totally agree. Remember, hypertension, bouts of facial palsy, constant heart palpitations, chest pains, eye pressure, tinnitus, intense carpal tunnel, and anxiety all went away when I started eating the right foods. Chapter 14, Converting Your Diet. Number 1, beware of spices like curry, turmeric, and black pepper. These and many more are high in oxalates. Best to eat more plain foods and add salt. For me, this is easy because I never like spicy or over-seasoned foods. For others, I'm sure this will be more bad news. I don't know. Chapter 15, Supporting Your Recovery. 1, increase salt intake for heavy workouts, sauna, and high endurance sports, up to 2 tablespoons of salt daily. take some before a workout to increase your endurance. Side notes on endurance: high endurance athletes often benefit from additional sugars as it can be more readily available source of energy. Paul Saladino, for example, a popular animal-based diet surfer, doctor, and YouTuber, also eats some fruits, honey, and real maple syrup. 2, lemons are super good to help with oxalate withdrawals and also good for teeth as long as you don't have prolonged contact with lemon juice due to its acidity. 2 lemons per day can be optimal, kind of more than I would have thought. That's half a cup of juice, but don't buy lemon juice concentrate because it's often really bad ingredients, including high oxalate ones. 3, coconut water is great for detoxing and a great source of potassium. It's truly amazing how our perception of healthy foods can sometimes be misleading and the impact they have on our overall well-being. Remember, being healthy is the foundation you build all of your other ventures on. By understanding the potential dangers of certain foods, we can make more informed decisions for our health and give ourselves more headspace to do the things we love. If you enjoyed this topic and you want to explore more videos related to life lessons of a pro trader, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to click on the link in the description and grab a copy of Sally K Norton's book for a deeper dive into this eye-opening subject. Your well-being matters both in the markets and in life. So, like always, stay healthy, curious, and make some awesome trades.